Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is Dennis House, who is the president of the Denise DiCenzo Foundation.
Among
Dennis,
many other things.
How are you, my friend? Welcome.
Nice to see you here.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks for coming down. Yeah, many other things besides the foundation, but we got a half hour, so we're going to get to all of it.
Yeah, news guy at WTNH, News 8.
That's right. Well, we'll talk about that too. So, Dennis, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became involved in journalism.
So, ever since I was a little kid, I think this is what I wanted to do. And I remember that my brother and I and our friends in the neighborhood, when we were playing games in the yard, we'd pretend to be broadcasters, things like that.
Okay.
And so after college, I took an internship at a station in Providence, and then I worked behind the scenes in New Hampshire on the assignment desk, and then I moved to Rockford, Illinois.
Oh boy.
And then worked in Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Michigan, and then came to Connecticut 30 years ago this summer.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're married.
Yes, married to Kara Sunland.
Right.
And we have two kids, Helena and Julian, ages 15 and almost 13.
And I'm sure that's a challenge enough with mom and dad both in the news media.
It's fun. You know, we both are very blessed to have the careers that we have.
Right.
And it keeps us sort of up to date on parental issues. I always find it because I think I know more because we're reporting on some of the issues that face kids every day. So, right. So I enjoy that part of it.
Absolutely. And as far as I understand, that you got promoted, so you're now working nights.
Yeah. So I do the 6 o'clock news.
Yep.
And the 11 o'clock news on News 8, and then we have a sister station, WCTX.
Yep.
So at 10 o'clock. So if you don't want,
o'clock.
It's great for people who want to go to bed a little bit early.
Right.
Because for 11 o'clock, it's too late for some. But you can catch the news at 10 o'clock on WCTX. So I work with Ann Nyberg on all 3 shows.
Absolutely.
And then I anchor a show called This Week in Connecticut, and that airs Sunday mornings at 10.
Speaking of This Week in Connecticut,
you're going to be on it.
should we tell them now or should we tell them later?
You can tell them the big news now.
I'll let you break the big news.
So Pete is going to be on this Sunday. We're going to be telling the story about Pete Mezzetti and his milestone coming up.
That's right. And for everybody who don't know what the milestone is, the milestone actually in July is show number 500.
That's amazing. That's remarkable.
It is. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun.
Well, congratulations. I always believe you should really like what you do for a job because you work a long time if you're blessed.
Absolutely. So Dennis, tell us a little bit about exactly the Denise DiCenzo Foundation and what you guys exactly do.
So the Denise DiCenzo Foundation was created in memory of my dear friend and longtime co-anchor, Denise DiCenzo, who passed away in December of 2019 suddenly.
Yes.
And we used to talk about what we would do after television. And one of the things that she wanted to do was have a foundation. She said, I'd like to be able to be in a position where I could raise money and then give it to worthy causes to help people, to make their lives better. And sadly, she's not here, obviously, to see this to fruition. But her husband, daughter, and I, along with Kara, who's also on the board of the Denise DiCenzo Foundation, created this organization which has raised thousands of dollars, and we're in the process of just getting going, and we've given out food share to hospitals, things like that. So yeah, so it really is, we're continuing her great work.
Yeah, and I actually saw the telethon that you guys did recently.
That was, all sorts of great fundraising opportunities there in terms of, we have a golf tournament coming up.
Yeah.
We had a walk. We have a gala.
That's right.
Next year, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
And when's the golf tournament?
The golf tournament is in September.
Okay.
To the Weathersfield Country Club. If you want to take part in the Denise DiCenzo Foundation, you can follow me on any of my social media venues, Dennis House TV on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And also the Denise DiCenzo Foundation is on those as well, and has a website, Denise. It's called thedenisefoundation.org.
And what types of information can they find out on the foundation website?
Well, they can learn just about a little bit about Denise. They can learn about us, the board members. They can learn about some of the events coming up. And as I said, it was, Denise died in December of 2019. The pandemic began in March of 2020. Right. So really there was a quick turnaround before the world came to an end. And so the foundation was not on pause, but it was not in a position to be out there having events and raising money during the foundation. We did raise a little bit. Okay. But because no one was doing anything, we couldn't really have events. So this is the first year we've really been able to have events.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, as far as, and especially in this day and age, TV media and TV and newspapers and everything, how do you think things are going with as far as media from the TV and the newspaper side to digital and where they are now?
It's a great question, Pete. You know, I've been in this business for more than 30 years. 30 years in Connecticut come August, and I have seen a lot of changes. So when I started my first job, we basically, when I was an intern in '88, we had like a computer that a bunch of us shared, right? We still used scripts, like a typewriter. And we would type them, and then we would rip up the carbons, and each person got a copy, and you had the producer had one, the director had one, both anchors. It was really, I remember they were different colors, so someone got blue, someone got pink, and green, and that's how it was. And we had to make a lot of phone calls to find information. So, for example, let's say that tips have been around forever, right? We would get a tip from a viewer. Hey, there's a fire on Main Street.
Yeah, right.
And then we would call the fire department to find out. Well, now we would just see it on Twitter or Facebook. So social media came about, but so I've seen the advancement. When I first started in this business, there were no cell phones, right?
No.
We had beepers, right? And then in the 90s, we had cell phones that came in like a bag, and you were assigned, this crew's going to take this cell phone, and this one's going to take that one. And then over time, of course, that developed. In the 90s, we got the internet, and so that changed a lot of things. And then social media came on, and now it's a lot of people. They want news right on their phone, and they can get it. They can watch. You can watch WTNH. By the way, no phone should be without the WTNH app. So get that. Because, well, it's important in many ways, because not only can you just watch news whenever you want, but let's say that you lose power, and it's a very let's say there are tornado watches and warnings that day. You're going to want to know what's going on in your town. And if you lose the power, you can at least watch on the phone, providing your phone is charged.
Right. And you can also watch Gil Simmons.
Well, Gil's amazing. We work with a really great bunch of people there.
Absolutely.
But Gil's one of them.
No, absolutely. Now, in your opinion, how important is it for like public access and small town media?
I think it's very important. And I'll tell you, one of my oldest friends from elementary school, Jack Tolman, who runs the cable access in my hometown of Norwood, Massachusetts.
Okay.
He's a great font of information because he knows everything about the town. And it's so important because, for instance, you're going to cover the people who are important to your viewers, and that's really important.
Absolutely.
And if you go on a larger level statewide, perhaps some of the bigger TV stations, these people might not be interviewed all the time. So cable access is so important. I'm a big fan of it. I've learned a lot from it. I like to watch certain programs, and I'm just so honored to be a guest.
I was going to say, hopefully Pete Mezzetti.
Yeah, well, I mean, your program is amazing. I mean, look at the people you have on over the years, and we're going to talk about that on This Week in Connecticut coming up on Sunday.
Absolutely. Now, as far as the news industry goes and all of their horrific things going on in the world, I'm sure that's pretty tough.
Yes. So we've covered a lot of really horrible news over the years, over my career, and I look back and there's been a lot of sadness. I remember my first year in Connecticut on Christmas Day. I walked in, I think I had like a green shirt and a red tie, and I was looking forward to a fun little Christmas story, and they said 3 people were killed on I-95 and you need to go to their house, which I'm going to confess this now to my news director at the time, probably won't be watching, but I didn't go to the house. I was not going to knock on that door on Christmas Day. I just wasn't going to do it, so I didn't. So we said no one was home. But I just, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in really just, just prying into someone's life. Having said that, though, I do believe that there's a more polite way to reach out to people.
Oh, of course.
And I learned this because I covered the death of someone, I believe it was in Ansonia, in the Naugatuck Valley, in the early 1990s. And so this young man had died, and we needed a picture of him. So I went to the town library, and I took his yearbook picture. We got a shot of his yearbook picture. And the next day, his mom called me up and said, he always hated that picture. I wish you'd come to the door. I would have given you a better one. So you never really know. And everybody grieves differently. And so when there's our job is to tell the stories of people.
Right.
And so if we can lend some sort of information about a person who has died, then that, I think, not only benefits that person, to a point. For instance, if you go to someone's neighborhood, right, and where the person died, and some neighbor wants to be on TV. Oh yeah, I didn't. He was a good kid. I didn't really know him. And those to me don't really give any value. But
no, of course not.
But I think there's a polite way to reach out to someone connected with the family, because they may want to say something. They may want to provide a picture. They may want to help you out.
Right, exactly. Now, how did the idea of This Week in Connecticut come about with Channel 8? Because I know for a bunch of years you did a similar program on a different station.
Yes, I did a show.
Which I watched all the time.
Well, Face the State, I am very proud of the work we did on that program. And so when I was hired by Channel 8, they wanted me to do a Sunday morning show.
Right.
And we wanted it to be a little bit different. We didn't want it to be just like my previous program, because it's a kind of saturated field out there. Right. It's a saturated genre, if you will. There are a lot of half-hour political discussion shows out there.
Yeah.
So we decided to do something a little bit different. So I don't always do studio interviews. We do some, but I go out in the field and I will interview someone in their natural habitat, so to speak. Like, for instance, here I am in your natural habitat.
There you go.
And so it makes the story a lot more authentic. And you learn more.
Absolutely.
We do some business stories. We do some feature stories. We've broken a lot of news on that program as well. And we do political interviews as well. So This Week in Connecticut, the name came from This Week with George Stephanopoulos, which airs on WTNH before that. So it goes This Week with George Stephanopoulos and This Week in Connecticut with Dennis House. So I enjoy it. I think we've gotten a lot of really exclusive interviews, and people like to come on the program.
Cool. Would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back.
You matter.
You matter.
You matter.
And your words matter too.
Your words matter.
What you say in the hallways at school or in the student section at a game matters.
Words can be hurtful.
Words can be offensive.
Words can leave scars.
Words can also inspire,
support, and uplift.
You and your words.
Are they both important?
As a matter of fact, yes.
Community TV, your neighborhood TV.
Publicly funded and a reliable partner for cable companies nationwide, it provides transparent coverage of local and state government, education, and public programming.
A digital town green that can be watched anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Watch us on today's high-tech distribution methods.
Community TV in Connecticut.
Local,
unfiltered,
reliable, and yours.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with Dennis House from News 8 and the Denise DeCenzo Foundation. Welcome back.
Good to see you, Pete.
Thanks
for having me
sticking around,
on.
Dennis. Thanks for sticking around. So, Dennis, we were talking about in the first segment, This Week in Connecticut. Who are some of the faces that you've had the pleasure to interview since the program started?
So we've had some CEOs. I think it was fascinating. Jim Laurie of Stanley Black & Decker, one of Connecticut's biggest companies.
Okay.
And he took us to a factory which makes tape measures. And I forget the exact number, if it's 37 million or 3.5 million, but they make a lot of tape measures in New Britain. And they go all over the world, and they were being printed in different languages.
Oh, wow.
It was really, really cool. And just how they make it, and the special yellow paint that goes on it.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun, and he basically told us a lot about that company. Raquel Rivera, who is a high-ranking executive and one of the highest-ranking Latinas in corporate America, really, in many ways.
Okay.
She works for Pratt & Whitney, the engine maker. Things like Corey Myers, who is a DJ. She had a near-death experience.
Yeah.
We had Christine Leon, another DJ, who took her wig off. She's suffering from cancer.
That's right.
And she is also battling lupus. The cancer's in remission, thankfully, but the lupus will stay with her. We've interviewed people in Hartford's North End, which is a neighborhood which has had a lot of crime. And we interviewed Reggie Hales, who's the publisher of a longtime newspaper. It's been there for 50 years, and just all the things he has seen. Probably our biggest guest we had was, well, there were two, but first, the Vice President, Kamala Harris.
Oh, wow, that's right. When she came and spoke at the Coast Guard Academy.
No, this was before that. She came to New Haven.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I was selected to be the anchor who would interview her, and so that was kind of fun. We had her on the program.
Cool.
I had worked on this for years. So there was a mobster who was involved in the big art heist, Robert Gentile.
Yeah.
The art heist took place at the Isabella Gardner Stewart Museum in Boston, and he was from Manchester. They dig up his house looking for the paintings, which they never found. And so for years I wanted to interview him, and I'd put in requests, and no. And then I started at Channel 8. I think I'd been there like 3 weeks, and I got a call saying, hey, Robert Gentile wants to meet with you. I said, okay. I told my bosses, I said, I think I might be getting this interview. Can I go meet with him? So I did. And we agreed to the interview. He told me his wife had passed away and that I was her favorite news anchor.
There you
go. So that's why he chose me. And so we sat down, we did an interview, and he didn't really reveal much. Right. He has since passed away, but it was his first television interview ever, his only one.
Oh, wow.
And we got him, so we're pretty proud of that.
Cool.
Yeah. So, I think that I always look for interesting stories. I think every single person has a story to tell.
Absolutely.
And you just have to sort of go beyond it and find out. And if you talk to people for a few minutes, you'll find out, like for instance, I don't know, when I go food shopping, I try to,
right.
Sometimes the cashier or something, one woman I know, her daughter was murdered. Another one has a special needs adult son that she still takes care of. So, everyone's got a story to tell.
Absolutely. And I'm sure when you go grocery shopping, people will recognize you off the bat.
But, so I don't, that doesn't bother me at all.
No, me either.
I like to meet people. You know what it's like. You're the local celebrity. I like to talk to people, and so people come up and say hi and the whole bit. And there are some times when it's just, this one morning I was at breakfast before I was going to play golf. This was years ago with some friends of mine. And this guy came up and he sat at my table and he said, listen, I need to talk to you about something, this story I have. I said, well, so I'm in the middle of like a breakfast. It's not really. And I gave him my number and he called me back. But so, it's, hey, we wouldn't be employed if people didn't watch us, right?
Exactly.
So I believe, I look at my job sort of as a public servant.
Right.
I serve the people of Connecticut. I bring them the news, and I help them with a problem if they have one. And a lot of viewers have reached out to me over the years and said, hey, can you help me with this? And I try to help when I can.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, obviously, with the news show, things are going great. But I actually saw you, and you did a really nice job convention weekend.
Thank you very much.
You did a really nice job convention weekend.
Thank you very much.
I was able to see what I watched on all the different all weekend. It's like,
yeah, I mean,
hey, there he is again.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we were at the Foxwoods Casino for the Republican convention, and we got to talk to some of the people there, the endorsed candidates and some of the other candidates. And I've always looked, sometimes you have to go where the news is. And over the years, I've been blessed to be sent on some assignments. TV stations don't do this as much as they used to, but in the 90s, I went to the O.J. Simpson trial. And I went to an inauguration, and I went to the Florida wildfires. I went to the Pope's funeral. I went to Rome for another story. So this is what we do. I was at 9/11 for almost 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So what you do to bring the story home, you have to sometimes go to the story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sure 9/11, that had to be an experience that you're never going to forget.
Yes, I wasn't married at the time and didn't have any kids, so I kind of woke up whenever I woke up, right?
Yeah, right.
And so I got a call from Kara, and she was out on a story, and she said, you need to turn the TV on. So I saw the second plane hit, and then I instantly took a shower, got ready, because I knew I would be sent down there, and I packed a bag for 3 days.
Yeah.
3 days is fine. You can always wash the shirt or do something, and a bunch of ties. And so I went down there, and I ended up being there, as I said, for almost 3 weeks. But that was such an impactful story, obviously for the nation and the world, but here in Connecticut too. I believe, I don't want to get this number wrong, but at least 160 people who either from Connecticut or with ties to Connecticut were killed in the World Trade Center. And this was also the second time that it had been attacked, because I was at the first attack in '93.
That's right.
I was sent down there. They just said, oh, get down there and do some live hits for the evening news, and I ended up being there for 3 days. So, and so many people, at least in the southwestern part of the state, do commute into Manhattan. So it was an important story.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm sure it's really important to you to get out and support the local community, not only when you're working, but you can also get out and support the local community when you're out in the community.
So I like to do that. I do a lot of events for, if a charity asks me to MC their event or come by their event or something like that, I do always try to do it.
Right.
Obviously I have a family and I have those requirements and those responsibilities. But if I can help a charity out, and I've done many of them, and it's really a lot of fun. I enjoy going to these events to help raise money for a cause.
Yep.
I also just like to maybe, so I'm really into like landmarks.
Okay.
So like if I can, like a landmark business, I'm fascinated by something that has survived like 100 and something years.
Exactly.
Or 50 years.
Right.
And so I will choose that restaurant over the chain.
Right, absolutely.
If I'm going out to eat, because that has an interesting story. How does this happen? How does someone still run the business that their great-grandfather created?
Exactly. Now, as far as the back to the foundation, as far as the foundation goes, and if people want to, if people want to make a donation, they can go on the website and everything?
Sure, they can go on the website, and it's the Denise Foundation.
Okay.
.com and .org. I believe we have both now.
Okay.
And you can make a donation. It's very easy to do, and we encourage you to do so. Denise was a great person, and her legacy continues on.
Absolutely, and I'm sure because you and Denise worked so many years together. What was she like? I never had a chance to meet her.
So she was funny.
Okay.
She was caring. And we really did have a lot of fun together. So I met her when I started there in '92, and then we became co-anchors in '94.
Okay.
Somebody once said that we got a call from some student researcher in North Carolina, I remember once, and this was probably about 5 years ago, and she was doing her thesis on news anchor pairings, and she said that we were one of the longest serving in the country. The Denise and Dennis team.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting. She had all this, these numbers, and she had been looking around. So it's rare to have a co-anchor for that long. And but she was great. She was a lot of fun. She was like a sister to me. She had no brothers. I have no sisters.
There you go.
So we had some great conversations and some sad conversations, some happy conversations. But we tried to have fun.
Yeah.
We tried to always have fun whenever you have to wait for the book for some of the fun stuff.
What book?
I'm just kidding. No.
I was going to say.
Maybe someday I'll write a book.
Maybe someday.
I mean, there's so many great stories to tell, but she was a lot of fun.
Speaking of stories to tell and wonderful people, I recently saw Bruce DePriest retired.
He did retire.
What was he like?
So Bruce was a great guy.
Nice.
I have been blessed, by the way, just to say that I worked with some really amazing people.
Absolutely.
Bruce is one of them, just retired, and he was really, he's older than Denise, and he was heartbroken over her death.
Oh yeah.
And I think shocked, as we all were, and so I think he started to look at his life and say, so he put the retirement into the plan, and so that's what happened with him. I work with Joe Fury now. It was amazing. Joe Fury and I actually did the morning news together back in the early 90s. And yes, at my previous employer. And then he moved on. And that was early 90s. I was there when he met his wife, who works there. And let's see who else. Gil Simmons I work with now.
Yeah.
And so they're really some amazing people.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't want to leave anyone out.
No.
Ann Nyberg, my co-anchor, is amazing. Over the years, I've worked with some pretty amazing women. Denise, I had Mika Brzezinski.
You sure? Absolutely.
Was one of my co-anchors. Also, Gail King.
That's right. Yeah,
and Janet Peckinpah. So
that's right.
Janet was brief, but she was great. And so I've worked with a lot of great people.
I was going to say, and we got to shout out one more. Darren Kramer.
Darren is amazing. So Darren and I, we've actually anchored together.
Because if we don't get that one involved, we're both going to get in trouble.
No, Darren, who is, I know, a viewer of yours.
Absolutely.
Darren's great. He and I, we're pod mates. We sit we're separated by Bill Hall, whom you know.
Oh boy.
But Darren and I have actually anchored together a couple times when I first got here. They don't do the two men thing all that often, but because it's sort of like a throwback to the way it used to be, like in the 70s and 80s and all that. With,
exactly.
Huntley Brinkley and Howard K. Smith and Harry Reasoner. But Darren's a great guy. And a small little Darren Kramer factoid. So Darren's from a small town in Wisconsin, Peshtigo, Wisconsin, which I'll tell you about. It's not a place that like, you know, most people have ever been to, but I actually have been there. And I took this weird picture back in the 80s when I was passing through. One of my college roommates was from, his family was from Menominee, Michigan, and Marinette, Wisconsin, which is right near Peshtigo.
Okay.
So on the way back to Chicago or wherever we were going, we stopped and took a picture with a big giant cow. This cow was gigantic.
Okay.
And so I held onto this picture all the time in Peshtigo, and I showed it to Darren, and he's like, that was my grandfather's cow. That was my grandfather's fiberglass cow. His grandfather was the mayor of Peshtigo.
Wow.
And brought in this giant cow, which has since been sold and moved. It's not in Peshtigo anymore. It's somewhere around the country. But so anyway.
Cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if people want more information, want to follow Dennis House, where can they go?
So Facebook, you can find me on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, Dennis House TV, Twitter, Dennis House TV, and of course you can always email me at the station at dennis.house@wtnh.com.
Dennis House, thanks for some time.
Pete, it was a pleasure.
Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
A great honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dennis. On behalf of Dennis House, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night, and we'll see you next time.